Stand back.
Hi, my name is Marshall, and this is Waveform. In sound design, just like any creative endeavor, you start off the same way, with no idea what the hell you're doing. Slowly you pick up the basics, then you learn tips and more advanced techniques, and later down the line with practice, you may even build a strong sense of intuition. But there are always things on the horizon. Unbelievable sounds. Sounds you hear in games and just go, God, if I could only make that sound or mix like that, I'd be so much better at this. It's not true, you'd only be a little bit better, but you think that. And for the longest time, since I started doing sound design, anime-style sounds were always in my unattainable category. When I heard stuff like this, I always said to myself, what am I even listening to? How did someone make this sound that's so satisfying and appropriate, but yet also sounds nothing like what it's portraying? One of my biggest weaknesses as a sound designer is being too literal with the things I'm designing for. I see a gun, I hear a shot. I see a vent, I hear a hum. I see a bird, I hear a bird, you get the point. But someone out there saw a punch and heard this instead. I wanted to learn how to think like that, and the techniques that were used in getting that sound, so I did. And now I'm going to show you what I found. First, like any curious person, I scoured the internet for answers. What I found was, when searching for sample libraries of anime content, you end up on websites that look like they haven't been edited since 1998. They have dead-end links to questionable samples, and ultimately you leave more confused than you came in. My hunch is that there are some quality sample libraries of this kind of stuff out there, but they're not sold or licensed to anyone. I bet they circulate between hard drives at the big anime post houses and some game studios, and that's it. Making sure these sounds are not accessible drives business to those who know how to make them, so I understand the motivation in keeping things secret. It became clear to me at this point that I was going to have to make my own samples. But that doesn't matter, because here on Waveform, we figure shit out. The first breadcrumbs I found came from this guy on Twitter. This combination of effects seemed really interesting to me. Reverb plus frequency shifting. This idea makes sense. Usually when working with reverb, it's one of the last things in your effects chain because first you make things sound the way you like and then you put them in a space with the reverb. Just like we did with the punch in this video. This method would be the opposite. We'd use reverb almost like a synthesizer to generate the meat of our sounds and then use the frequency shifter later to add texture and cool effects. Plus, when making super abstract sounds like these, you don't have to worry as much about placing them in a realistic space, because you're not trying to convince your listener that this is actually what the punch sounds like in this environment. The audience already expects a certain level of abstraction from this art style. You might be thinking, hey, we do a lot of pitch shifting on this show, why don't we just pitch shift the sounds? Pitch and frequency are the same thing, so pitch shifting and frequency shifting are the same too, right?
No.
See, when we pitch shift something up, we're multiplying each frequency in the sound by a set amount. So if we pitch shift something up by 1 octave, we're multiplying all the frequencies in the sound by 2. If we frequency shift that same sound, we're adding frequencies, not multiplying. This means that when you pitch shift, you maintain the original character of the sound, it's just higher pitched. But with frequency shifting, you distort and change the sound completely. This effect is going to give us the crazy shimmering texture in a lot of these anime-style sounds. It turned out that this combination of reverb and frequency shifting immediately started yielding awesome results. Nice. Now let's try something a bit more warbly. We can get this warbling effect by adding an LFO to our frequency shifter. LFO stands for low frequency oscillator, and it's really just a fancy way of saying we're going to turn this knob back and forth at a given speed. That's what gives us the warble effect. People use LFOs everywhere. In music to give variety to drum sounds, in synthesizers to have things evolve over time. It's a powerful tool to learn how to use. You might notice that I've been saving all these effects into a preset. This is something that you can do in almost any audio program in one way or another, and it really helps workflow. If I ever want to make some anime-style sound effects in the future, now, instead of reminding myself of all the techniques and remaking the reverb and frequency shifter, I'll just drag in my preset, and all these controls will be loaded right up. There's a trap here though, so be careful. Relying too heavily on presets that you make can get you stuck in a sound design rut really fast. It's great sometimes to go through your presets and just purge old ones you've worn out of using and replace them with better things. These anime-style sounds have a unique and effective way of communicating emotion. Even if you don't use sounds like this day to day, it's always worth learning about techniques that challenge your ideas of how sound effects should be typically used. Recently, I spoke with Brian Schmidt, founder of GameSoundCon in California, about his feelings on this same topic.
Most people I know in this industry are continually curious about everything having to do with it. So the people I've seen be most successful, or I've seen have the most fun, are those who don't just say, well, all I do is Foley art and somebody else, it's their job to take it and put it into the game. The people I think have had the most fun said, how is it that my sound gets into the game? And they fire up Unity and they go through some of the Unity tutorials. And it's like, oh, this is what the program is doing. Maybe I should take a C# course. And they go take a C# course, or they work their way through a book or something like that. So it's this kind of constant curiosity about what's going on. What are other people doing? People play in bands all the time, and they're not doing it to try and play big arenas. They're doing it because it's stupidly fun to be in a band. And it can be stupidly fun to do sound design for small games.
If you take anything away from this video, it should be these 3 things. 1, do all of your professional research on Twitter. 2, using reverb and frequency shifters make every sound better pretty much, and they make you a better sound designer, I think, no exceptions. And 3, add me as your friend on Twitch so you can play Smash when it comes out. Cool? For Patreon supporters giving $5 a month or more, I'm throwing in the Anime Effects plugin I made in Ableton for this video as a little thank you for your patience. As some of you may know, my day job is as a sound designer working on this game coming out on December 4th, called Just Cause 4. So as you might be able to imagine, work takes up a lot of my time, but I haven't forgot about you guys or Waveform, and more episodes are in the works. I hope you guys like the plugin. This thing is basically an anime sounds generator, and it's super fun to play with. Thanks again to the supporters. You guys are amazing. I'll see you next time.